Hello friends! You probably think I'm drinking coffee in here, but I'm not. It's orange juice. Does orange juice stain? Anyway, today I wanted to recommend some books that kind of feel like Gilmore Girls. But before we get started, I wanted to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Book of the Month. I've been a subscriber to Book of the Month for over a year. I am obsessed. Every month when they announce their new picks, it's like Christmas. I literally will get on the computer and refresh the pages until the new books are posted, and then I get so excited. Sometimes my husband's like, "You okay?" I'm just like, the new books are out. Anyway, so Book of the Month is the most popular and fastest growing online book subscription service. Their mission is to promote new and emerging authors and debut releases. It's a great way to discover authors that you might not have ever heard about otherwise. The Book of the Month team curates a selection of new releases for you to choose from every month. You don't just get sent a book, you get to go to the Book of the Month website and choose which one appeals most to you. And then it gets shipped right to your front door. They also have a skip policy, which I absolutely love, because if none of the monthly books really appeal to you, you can just skip. It's completely risk-free. I love having the freedom to do that, and I don't know of any other book subscription service that has that option. And as for the price, it's honestly so good. If you guys are book people, then you know if you go to the bookstore, hardcovers are upwards of $20 for adult fiction. If you want to try Book of the Month for your first time, you can get your first book for only $9.99 with the code SAYBOOK. And after that, it's $14.99 a month, which is still like so ridiculously cheap. The book picks for November are absolutely amazing. This first one, it's called These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai. And then we have This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins. It's about these two people who were born together on a New Year's Eve, like within minutes of each other. He ends up being super successful and she kind of lives with a chip on her shoulder and not a very lucky person. And fate keeps bringing them together. And then The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany by Laurie Nelson Spielman. It's a family drama, but it takes place in Tuscany, and it's about how the second-born daughter in every family just is unable to find true love. But then one of the second-borns gets invited to Italy by her great-aunt Poppy, who promises that she might be able to break this curse. It also involves like food and travel in Italy, so I'm super excited for this one. And then we've got Pretty Little Wife by Darby Kane. This is a domestic suspense thriller about a dead husband who has gone missing. And then we've got Memorial by Brian Washington. This is a literary fiction novel about Benson and Mike, who are two young guys who live together. One of them is Japanese American, and I think he ends up going back to Japan because of some family stuff that goes on. Just kind of an exploration of how the relationship deals with highs and lows. So I will have the link in the description box to Book of the Month if you want to go check it out. And thank you so much to Book of the Month for sponsoring this video. Now without further ado, let's dive into the rest of the video. Just a disclaimer, I have not read all of these books. I did a lot of research of Googling books that feel like Gilmore Girls and getting recommendations from you guys in the comments, but I will say which ones I've read and which ones I haven't read. So let's get started. First up, we've got The City Baker's Guide to Country Living by Louise Miller. On the front right here, it literally says, super cozy. Okay, it's Gilmore Girls. Also, even the colors are Gilmore Girls. That has orange and blue and like some brown. I read this one last year and it has all of the cozy small town. She's a pastry chef, which is so much like Suki. Our main character loses her job and escapes to this small town in Vermont, which is in New England, which is where Gilmore Girls also takes place. And while she's there, the owner of this inn offers our main character a job. And the name of the inn is the Sugar Maple Inn. It's so cute. It's like the Dragonfly Inn, you know? See what I'm saying? You see how they're similar? If I remember right, there's also like an apple pie baking contest and there's some romance. So this one is really, really Gilmore Girly. Next, this one is pretty obvious for any Gilmore Girl fan, and that is Talking as Fast as I Can by Laura Graham. Some of you have told me that I look like Lorelai, but I don't really see it, but what do you guys think? Do you guys think I look like Lorelai? This is a nonfiction book that Lauren wrote about her time on Gilmore Girls, and especially about the year in the life when they got invited back. If you're a true Gilmore Girls fan, you need to read this because she gives so many juicy details about being on set, and her thoughts when she heard about the ending of the year in the life is so juicy and just so good and so full of everything you want if you're a Gilmore Girls fan. Also, do yourself a favor and listen to the audiobook. Don't read it physically because Lauren narrates it, so it's essentially like Lorelai Gilmore telling you about the behind the scenes of Gilmore Girls. Sometimes if I'm sad, I just listen to it because it's like I just want Lorelai Gilmore to be talking to me, you know, and because she's just so, it's just so good to listen to her, you know? She like rambles on, but it doesn't matter because she's somehow so comforting at the same time. Okay, I'm getting distracted. Next, we've got The All Girls Filling Station's Last Reunion by Fanny Flagg. Once again, the color scheme is kind of, you know, kind of Gilmore Girls. Maybe I shouldn't have had them all sitting on my lap this whole time. You guys okay? Anyway, even just the colors give me Gilmore Girls vibes. So, this one I have not read, but get this, our main character's name is Suki. And it's set in a small town in Alabama. So Suki is a bit older and she just married off her last child and she's excited to enjoy her life relaxing with her husband. But then, by accident, she discovers a long hidden secret about her mother. A discovery that makes her start to question everything she ever knew about herself. As she begins to search for answers about herself, we get taken into the past, I think into the 1940s, and that's when she learns about the adventures of the girls that worked at the all-girl filling station. And I guess learning about that, she finds new inspiration for her own life. So I'm thinking this one's going to remind you of Gilmore Girls a lot based on like the small town vibes and the community and the relationships. One of my favorite books of the year, A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. It's so beautiful. A Sky Painted Gold reminds me of Gilmore Girls because it makes me think of Logan and Rory's relationship. But this book is historical fiction. It does take place in 1929. It has major Great Gatsby vibes. So Logan is very rich, right? And Rory is not. That's kind of how this story is. Our main character, Lou, is swept up into this glamorous life of the Cardew family and ends up falling for one of the sons that lives at the Cardew mansion. If I remember right, I think it's set around like Cornwall area in England, but I might be wrong. I don't remember the location exactly. This is also a YA novel. It's not adult, but if you like YA, I really liked this. I don't read a ton of YA, but this blew me away. Next, we have another book that was recommended to me by someone in the Gilmore Girls Discord group. It is Garden Spells by Sarah Addison Allen. From what I can tell, it's about our main character named Claire Waverly, and she is a very successful caterer. So I'm thinking this book is going to be very much about food. So if you like that part of Gilmore Girls, like Suki, baking, and catering, then you might be really interested in this one. Here on the back it says, in a garden surrounded by a tall fence, tucked away behind a small house in the smallest of towns, is an apple tree rumored to bear a very special sort of fruit. So I'm thinking they have some sort of like magic going on? Endowed with particular gifts that make them outsiders in their hometown. So I'm thinking this one's gonna have like small town vibes, family relationships, maybe some family drama, and lots of food. Next up, we've got one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Bookshop on the Shore, or you could do The Bookshop on the Corner. This is part of a series, but you do not need to read them in order. You can read this one first, you can read this one first, you could read 500 Miles From You, which is the third and final book in the series. They all involve Scotland, the Scottish Highlands, the countryside, small town life, and it's literally everything you need in a book. This one is my favorite in this series. They all take place in the same town in Scotland, but they have different characters, and sometimes the characters will make an appearance. So some of the characters from the first book make appearances in this book, but you don't have to have known about what happened in the first book to still enjoy this one. If you want Scottish small town vibes with very lovable characters and beautiful aesthetic scenery, like foggy mornings and the Loch Ness Lake, I know that loch actually means lake, but yeah, you know, the lake with Nessie, then I highly recommend picking these up. These are so good. And next, we've got The Love Story of Missy Carmichael. It's about a 70-year-old woman named Missy living in a smallish little town in England. Her husband is dead and her son lives all the way in Australia, and she is pretty lonely. She also has a daughter, but she doesn't have very good relationships with her. So it kind of already has like the family dynamic drama of Gilmore Girls in that sense. The story is told through flashbacks, and we get to know Missy more of a character throughout these flashbacks. It is a bit of a slow burn, but it's the type of slow burn that's worth it, because in the end you absolutely love her and you love all of the characters and you feel like you kind of worked to get there, and it's very fulfilling. And we see how even though Missy is lonely, she starts to slowly open herself up to people and friendships. While it is Missy's story, it really is a story about growth. The way that she kind of changes and comes into herself, I don't know, I can't describe really why it gave me Gilmore Girls vibes, but it did. And then next up, we've got Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is another one that I have not read, but a lot of people have recommended it to me for a book that kind of feels like Gilmore Girls. I know that it's a romantic comedy set at like a Renaissance fair in a small town, so obviously that sounds like Stars Hollow. Also, I'm pretty sure this is set in New England as well. I don't know anything other than that, but small town, Renaissance fair, romantic comedy. I feel like that definitely checks boxes for Gilmore Girls vibes. And then next, we've got Family for Beginners by Sarah Morgan. I have not read this one, but I've read 3 other books by Sarah Morgan and I rated them all 5 stars. She does different family dynamics and family drama really, really well in like an optimistic, positive, lighthearted way. This one I know takes place during the summer and we get 2 different perspectives from 2 different sisters in this family. I think one of the perspectives, which is like the first half of the book, takes place in New York City, and then the other perspective, the second half of the book, takes place in the Lake District in the UK. I've heard that the Lake District is described very beautifully and aesthetically and very like immersive, like you kind of feel like you're there, which I love reading books that describe the surroundings beautifully. It like helps me transport myself into the story. I know that there's some slow burn romance and sisters that kind of come back together. I don't know too much more, but Sarah Morgan is a fantastic writer. One of my other favorites by Sarah Morgan is The Christmas Sisters. This one is so good if you want to read a Christmassy book. It is set in Scotland in this small little town. They get snowed in at one point. There's lots of kind of family drama, but it gets resolved and it's so beautiful and I love it so much. So if you haven't read that one and you want more of a Christmassy read, because right now it's November, I think it would be such a perfect time to read that one, as this one is set in the summer. This next one I just finished yesterday, and it's, in my opinion, the most Gilmore-y type book on this list, besides Talking as Fast as I Can and The City Baker's Guide to Country Living, and that is Poppy's Recipe for Life by Heidi Swain. Oh my goodness. Okay, so it's about our main character named Poppy, who just moved into Nightingale Square in this small town in England, and she loves to cook and bake, but specifically cooking. She loves to cook. Like in her kitchen, she would rather buy new pots and pans and bowls and stuff to cook in than like the newest handbag or new clothing. She's obsessed with cooking. And she's so excited about having just moved into Nightingale Square because it's this communal garden where she can grow her own fresh vegetables. And we all know how much Suki loves her fresh vegetables. So she reminds me a lot of Suki. But then we've got a new neighbor who moves in, and he's nicknamed in the beginning Mr. Grumpy because he doesn't like to talk to people. He very much keeps to himself. And he kind of reminds me of Luke. We all love Luke and he's amazing, but sometimes, you know, he just says what he wants and does what he wants, especially when it comes to Taylor telling Luke what to do. That's kind of how this character is. So Poppy starts to invite him to like activities that happen in the town and he doesn't really want to come, but eventually he kind of starts to fall in love with all the people who live in this little town and all of their little quirks. And then of course there's like a little bit of a slow burn romance going on throughout the book that doesn't really kind of peak until the end. So I highly recommend this one if you want one that really feels like Gilmore Girls, like a lot. Next, I have not read this one, but it is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. What I've heard from you guys in the comments and just reviews online, it has a grandmother-granddaughter relationship. It's about a granddaughter and a grandmother who kind of switch lives. One lives in the city, one lives in the countryside, and they're kind of just needing something different, so they switch and they keep in contact. And lots of people have recommended this to me for feeling a lot like Gilmore Girls. Next, we've got a cozy murder mystery called The Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder by Hannah Swenson. I have not read this one, but I've seen this one recommended for Gilmore Girls fans because supposedly the main character kind of has like a Lorelai personality. Her name is Joanne Fluke and she bakes desserts. I think she has like a pastry shop. Says she is our red-haired heroine whose ginger snaps are as tart as her comebacks. So I think she's like a very kind of witty and sarcastic and just blunt, which totally reminds me of Lorelai. So one day the delivery man from Cozy Cow Dairy is found dead behind her bakery with her chocolate chip cookies kind of like all over him, you know, like the chocolate chip cookies killed him. But that is not true. So in order to save her store's reputation, because she doesn't want people thinking that her cookies are poisonous, she decides to track down the killer. So I think this would be great if you want a cozy mystery to read that kind of feels like Gilmore Girls. And then we have The Star-Crossed Sisters of Tuscany by Laurie Nelson Spielman. So this is one of the November books of the month, and I started reading it. I'm on like page 120, and oh my gosh, does this have Gilmore Girls vibes. So it could not have come at a better time. Book of the month, good job. How did you know the Gilmore Girls Readathon was this month? Because this is perfect for it. I'm gonna say this is up there with the other 3 or 4 that I said were like very Gilmore Girly. The beginning of this one takes place in Brooklyn, New York, where our main character is working in a deli. It's more like a bakery pastry shop type place. She's filling cannoli because her family is Italian and they serve a lot of Italian pastries. And it's just kind of known in this family that the second born daughter of every family won't be able to find lasting love. This book isn't like magical in the terms of like practical magic. Like it's not like a bunch of witches and stuff. It's just like this curse that was put on them a long time ago, and it's just kind of accepted that that's how it is. And the sisters have started to notice that it really is true, but they don't really believe there's like a curse. They think it's just coincidence. And then one day she gets a letter from her Aunt Poppy to accompany her to her homeland in Italy for her 80th birthday. Right on the front there's an itinerary for it. So they go to Venice, Tuscany, and the Amalfi Coast. And her great aunt tells her that if she goes with her, she might be able to help her break this curse so that she will be able to find lasting love. From my experience reading already, it's full of delicious food and atmospheric, beautiful Italy. So we've got food, family, drama, very witty and likable characters. If you're gonna pick up one, I know I've said this about a few others, but like very highly consider picking up this one because it's really, really good and very much makes me feel like Gilmore Girly when I'm reading this one. And those are all of the books that I will be recommending today. And if you have any recommendations for me for books that will give me those vibes, please leave them down below. Anything that has to do with food, small towns, family stuff, just like cozy vibes, please let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys!